An American F-35 stealth fighter was struck by Iranian fire over central Iran and forced into an emergency landing at a U.S. airbase somewhere in the Middle East. This is the first confirmed hostile strike against a U.S. aircraft since this war began 3 weeks ago. And what makes it significantly worse is that America had just been telling the entire world that Iran's air defenses no longer exist. We need to talk about exactly what happened, what the U.S. military is not telling you, and what this attack means for the direction of this war going forward. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps moved quickly. They issued a formal statement claiming direct responsibility for the strike, stating the F-35 was engaged at approximately 20:50 in the morning local time over central Iranian airspace, using what they described as an advanced next-generation air defense system operated by the Revolutionary Guard's Aerospace Force. Iran claimed the aircraft sustained serious damage and that the probability of a crash was high. They also stated the strike came after the successful interception of more than 125 American and Israeli drones. Alongside that statement, Iran released video footage through Fars News. The footage appears to show an infrared tracking system following an aircraft, followed by a surface-to-air missile striking the jet on its left side. The final frame shows what appears to be a fluid leak next to the heat signature of the engine. Open-source intelligence analysts examined the footage carefully. Technical assessors noted that the interface is generally consistent with electro-optical and infrared systems known to be in Iranian service. Analysts further noted the footage does not appear to be artificially generated and that the post-impact physics shown are too complex to replicate using military simulation software commonly used to fabricate combat footage. That is not a confirmation of authenticity. That is an informed assessment that the footage deserves serious scrutiny rather than immediate dismissal. And we need to be honest about Iran's track record when making these kinds of claims. The IRGC has overclaimed before. Earlier in this war, Iranian groups rushed to take credit for 3 F-15E Strike Eagles that went down on March 1st. Those losses turned out to be the result of Kuwaiti-friendly fire, not Iranian action. The IRGC also claimed responsibility for a KC-135 Stratotanker crash in western Iraq on March 12th that killed all 6 crew members. CENTCOM stated that crash was not caused by hostile or friendly fire. And back in October 2024, Iranian media circulated images of supposedly downed Israeli F-35s that were widely assessed as digitally fabricated. So the IRGC's word alone is not proof. But this time something is different. U.S. Navy Captain Tim Hawkins, CENTCOM spokesperson, confirmed that a U.S. F-35 was flying a combat mission over Iran when it was forced to conduct an emergency landing at a U.S. air base somewhere in the Middle East. Hawkins confirmed the aircraft landed safely and that the pilot is in stable condition. Stable condition. That phrasing is doing significant work in that statement. Stable is not uninjured. Stable is not walked away without a scratch. Stable is the specific word the military uses when it cannot provide a full medical update but needs to confirm the person is alive. The specific variant of the F-35, which branch of the military operates it, the extent of the airframe damage, and the base it landed at, none of that has been disclosed. When the Pentagon has a straightforward story to tell, they provide details. When the details disappear entirely, the story is not straightforward. Now consider the timing carefully. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth had told reporters that very same morning that the United States was winning decisively. He announced that the day would deliver the largest strike package yet flown over Iran. The word he chose to describe the state of Iranian air defenses was flattened, not degraded, not suppressed, flattened. That is not the language of measured operational assessment. That is the language of a campaign declaring total and complete victory, and that declaration came after the F-35 had already been hit. The incident occurred at approximately 20:50 in the morning, hours before Hegseth spoke publicly, which creates an immediate credibility problem. Hours after the F-35 incident had already occurred, the defense secretary was telling the world that Iranian air defenses were completely eliminated, even while the military was still investigating whether Iranian fire had damaged an American stealth fighter. That does not necessarily mean he deliberately missiled anyone, but it does mean his public message was significantly ahead of what had actually been confirmed on the ground. And the credibility problem did not stop there. That same afternoon, President Trump sat in the Oval Office alongside a foreign leader and told reporters that Iran's navy is gone, their air force is gone, their anti-aircraft equipment is gone, their leaders are gone. He said American forces were flying wherever they wanted and that nobody was even shooting at them. CNN's fact-checking correspondent flagged the timestamp. Trump made that statement minutes after the network broke the F-35 story. Nobody even shooting at us. We will return to that line because the deeper you examine what Iran still has operating in the field, the more disconnected from reality that claim becomes. Here is why the IRGC claim carries real weight this time beyond the CENTCOM confirmation. CENTCOM confirmed the emergency landing. 2 independent sources attributed the cause to Iranian fire. The video has passed initial open-source analysis, and a pilot is in stable, not an injured, not fine stable, condition at an undisclosed location. The details CENTCOM is deliberately withholding communicate as much as the details it chose to release. The most important question is what technology may have actually struck the aircraft. The Warzone editor Tyler Rogaway noted that if the video footage is authentic, the tracking system shown is consistent with a passive sensor, a system that uses infrared and electro-optical guidance rather than radar, a system that emits absolutely zero radio frequency energy. That distinction is critically important. The F-35 carries the AN/ACE-Q-39 Barracuda electronic warfare suit. It is specifically designed to detect jam and neutralize radar signals. When a ground-based system is emitting radar energy, the F-35 knows about it. The pilot receives an immediate warning. The aircraft can react and take evasive action. But a passive infrared system gives off nothing at all, no radar emission, no detectable signal, no cockpit warning alert. The pilot has no indication that anything is tracking them until the missile is already on the way. This is the same category of threat that Houthi forces in Yemen have used to bring down American MQ-9 Reaper drones. It has always been a known vulnerability. Rogaway had specifically warned about this exact scenario weeks earlier, writing that Iran operates road mobile air defense systems that can conceal themselves and appear without warning, that they field unconventional systems including loitering surface-to-air missiles, and that flying man fighters into direct attack roles over Iranian territory does not mean those aircraft can operate without genuine risk. The fundamental reality is this. The F-35 was engineered to defeat radar. It was not engineered to defeat a system that does not use radar at all. If Iran has deployed passive infrared guided surface-to-air missiles operated from road mobile launchers, it does not matter how many fixed air defense installations the U.S. has destroyed. You cannot bomb a launcher you cannot locate. You cannot jam a signal that does not exist. And every sortie flown over Iranian airspace now carries a category of risk that no amount of stealth shaping can eliminate. This connects directly to what Iran retains as an operational capability. The Bavar 373 is Iran's most advanced domestically developed air defense platform. Tehran markets it as comparable to Russia's S-400 system. Whether that comparison holds technically is debatable. What is not debatable is that the system is road mobile. The upgraded Bavar 373-2 variant unveiled in February 2025 features independent launcher stations where each individual transporter erector launcher carries its own radar. That means even if the central command node is destroyed, the individual launchers continue operating autonomously. Iran claims the system can detect targets at 450 kilometers, track at 405, and engage beyond 300. Independent analysts estimate the realistic engagement range against the F-35's reduced radar cross-section at closer to 90 kilometers. But 90 kilometers is still 90 kilometers. That is a kill zone wide enough to cover an entire flight corridor used by incoming strike packages. The financial dimension of this incident deserves serious attention. The F-35 program has cost the United States more than $1.7 trillion over its lifetime. It is the single most expensive weapon system ever built by any nation in human history. A single airframe costs over $100 million. If the weapon that struck it was a surface-to-air missile fired from a road mobile launcher, that missile likely cost somewhere between tens of thousands and a few $1 million at most. That kind of cost asymmetry has defined modern warfare for the past decade. But until now, it was playing out primarily with inexpensive drones being used against expensive interceptor missiles. This is the first time that cost imbalance has reached the stealth tier, where a system costing a fraction of its target appears to have penetrated the most advanced defensive aviation technology ever built. 19 days into the operation, the United States reports striking more than 7,000 targets across Iran, damaging or sinking over 100 Iranian naval vessels, and according to Israeli intelligence, driving Iranian missile production to zero. CNQAM Commander Admiral Brad Cooper has stated that 70% of Iran's missile launchers have been neutralized. Those are significant figures. But here is the fuller picture alongside them. 13 American service members have been killed. Around 200 have been wounded. 5 KC-135 refueling tankers were damaged on the ground at Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia from an Iranian missile strike. Iran struck Dubai International Airport. It hit airports, diplomatic missions, and energy infrastructure across Gulf states. It struck the U.S. Embassy compound in Baghdad and hit the British base at Raf Akrotiri in Cyprus. The Strait of Hormuz remains contested. Gulf oil exports have fallen by at least 60%, and not a single close ally has joined the military campaign. Britain refused to send minesweepers despite a direct personal request. The European Union's top foreign policy officials stated plainly that this is not Europe's war, and that Europe was neither consulted nor involved in its initiation. France positioned the Charles de Gaulle aircraft carrier in the Mediterranean, but has declined to escort any vessels until the active fighting subsides. China ignored the request for involvement entirely. Trump's planned trip to Beijing has been delayed by a full month. The IRGC released a separate video this week showing a ground forces commander looking directly into the camera and saying, "We have been waiting for this day for years." The 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit out of Okinawa, along with the Tripoli Amphibious Ready Group, has been moving toward the region. The USS Tripoli was spotted approaching Singapore. If a ground component to this conflict is coming, Iran is publicly signaling that it has spent decades preparing for exactly that scenario. Meanwhile, Trump's own top counterterrorism official resigned this week, stating on the record that Iran posed no imminent threat and that the war should not have been launched. Here is where everything stands right now. The plan was flattened air defenses. The reality is an F-35 forced into an emergency landing over central Iran on the same morning that claim was publicly made. The plan was nobody is even shooting at us. The reality is Sianchuam confirmed an emergency landing from suspected hostile fire hours before the president spoke those words on camera. The plan was a 4 to 5 week operation. The reality is day 19 with a Marine Expeditionary Unit deploying and no clearly defined exit strategy in sight. The plan was total air control over Iran. The reality is road mobile launchers, passive infrared tracking systems, and a $100 million jet with damage that nobody in Washington apparently told the commander-in-chief about before he stood in front of cameras. The plan was Allied support. The reality is Britain said no. France said not yet. China said nothing, and Europe said this is not our war. There is one question nobody in official Washington is currently willing to answer directly. If flattened means an F-35 can still be struck and forced down, and nobody is even shooting at us means a pilot in stable condition at an undisclosed base. What exactly are they going to say when the next one does not make it back at all?